I guess the point is that he was an investor.
Yes, and he had lots of money and he gave it to his sons. So one of his sons, Bayard, B-A-Y-A-R-D, Bayard Thayer, built this.
Okay, so Bayard Thayer, the son.
Lancaster has, I think, currently 4 standing Thayer mansions.
I did hear that there were a few, yeah.
This is the kind of, I think, most lavish.
Mm-hmm.
But the others they're very nice homes. The Conservatory Music, the big yellow build, that's one of them.
Yeah, and this was built turn of the century, correct?
1902, probably to 1904.
Okay.
Took 2 years.
Wow, I can see why.
And without heavy equipment.
Yeah.
Horses, maybe some steam engines.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not their principal residence. This was
No.
only part of the year.
Bayard Thayer grew up in Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had an emotional attachment to the place.
Mm-hmm.
And his family was here.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back here, they would sometimes only 2 or 3 weeks a year they'd be here.
Wow.
They-
I was shocked. when
They
I heard
lived
about
in the
breakers.
house. Their house in their adult life was that house that's the facade that you see in the TV show Cheers, over the bar. The
Oh.
bar's in the basement.
Yeah.
The facade above that
Mhm.
is the Thayer house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's very fascinating.
Bayard Thayer house.
And so was Bayard just a wealthy heir? Or
Yeah, I mean, he went to Harvard. He didn't graduate, but he took some courses there. I think his brother graduated, but he didn't. He toured the world. He spent a lot of time in Japan, so he got a taste for how things are done internationally,
Mm-hmm.
done differently than here. And so he was a big fan of horticulture, and also he was a hunter.
Okay.
So they would bring in plants from all over the world that you can't do, it's illegal now.
Yeah.
And he'd plant them on the property.
Oh, no kidding.
Invasive species in some
Oh, boy.
cases.
Are they
but
still
also-
around?
Oh, some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them I wish weren't around.
Oh,
The ringtail pheasant was brought into New England by Bayard Thayer. It didn't exist here.
Really?
Yeah, I think it comes from Europe somewhere. And
Oh, wow.
it's an invasive species, but it doesn't seem to do any big harm. So
Oh, well.
And we heard that he liked carriages.
Mm-hmm.
He had, of course, the coach house and the ability to bring a big carriage in.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a kennel, dogs.
Oh, wow.
yeah, he raised dogs, and in horticulture. I mean, both of them were involved in horticulture, but he especially liked pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a relationship with Arnold Arboretum in Jamaica Plain, and they had limited land,
Mm-hmm.
so they did a lot of plantings on the site.
Oh, wow.
This place was in the National Horticultural Magazine during that time, almost every month.
Oh, wow.
There's something going on here. He developed species.
Mm-hmm.
There's a species of yew tree, yew bushes, or whatever you want to call them,
Mm-hmm.
that has the Thayer name in it because he developed it on the property.
Oh, wow. So he dropped out of Harvard, but evidently.
Oh, he was
Quite
no
intelligent.
he was no slouch. No,
No.
he competed in the America's Cup race and came in second.
Oh, wow. Goodness. Well, quite accomplished, as they
He
would
had
say.
joint ownership of a yacht, with some other people.
Mm-hmm.
So he was part of the group that raced.
But it was, Boston blue blood, life of leisure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was life not just idle leisure. They were compassionate people. I think having a grandfather that's a minister
Mm-hmm.
and a successful one had some influence on them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the rooms upstairs, even in the servants' area, for example, there's a shower that is as big as a very large closet, and it's marble all the way around. It has a overhead shower, a handheld shower, and a full body shower. And this is for servants.
Wow. So accessible. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shared bathroom for several rooms, but still, it was for servants. And in those days, there was a huge divide between the wealthy and the servants.
Right. The whole upstairs, downstairs.
It very much like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So how much staff did it take to keep this place running?
We don't know exactly. We do know that they had a huge number of gardeners when they were at their peak, maybe even up to 50, working, of course, just summer, full time.
I can't even conceptualize 50
Flower
gardens.
beds and plantings, azaleas, some of them still here,
Mm-hmm.
many of them not. The place was devastated in the 1938 hurricane.
Okay.
A lot of trees came down, a lot of just, as the whole central Massachusetts was just kind of wiped out, really. I mean, starting from, well, Rhode Island and New Bedford was just trashed.
Trash.
And a lot of these little towns on, Athol and Gardner and Fitchburg, on rivers and things, the rivers overflowed and buildings washed out, and it was a huge mess.
Wow. But clearly it got fixed up to some extent.
Well, I don't think it ever came back completely.
And by that you mean the grounds when you say
Yeah,
that,
the grounds. His widow, he died in his 50s. His wife lived into her 80s. She died in 1941. This was 1938, so she was already quite old, and I think the money was, slowly diminishing, and then of course the depression.
Right.
They, like everyone, all the other wealthy people, they lost significant amounts in the depression.
Now, this was lived in until you moved in?
After they sold it, when the widow passed away, it was passed through. Sometimes a few times it was in bank receivership.
Yeah.
I don't think the heirs wanted to take it over, could take it over financially. So it passed through a whole series of nonprofits.
Okay.
The longest, I think, actually our organization's held it longer than any other.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the Catholic Church is second. So they had it for 20,
24, 25
yeah.
years.
The Sentinel Sisters, a group of nuns were here, and they had retreats. There's a lot of local people stop by. They remember coming here themselves for a retreat, or as a child, they came with their parents.
The Greek Orthodox church had it for a year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
And then there was a man interested in the healing power of plants who had it for about a year.
Oh, wow.
The Horticultural Society had it
Gosh.
for a little while, but it was difficult to keep
And
up
the School
with
for the
this.
Blind had it for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
it passed through a lot of hands.
Oh, my goodness.
They struggled the most, I think, financially with it, because they had a successful school some other city, and they just couldn't do it. And so they sold off a lot of antique furniture, and the place ran down quite a lot. It went into receivership, and that's when our organization bought it.
Okay. And that was before you moved in?
Oh yeah, a long time. That was 1978, 79.
Okay. And they're the ones that still own it?
Well, it's a big international organization, and they have some kind of sub-organization,
Yeah.
so it is passed between various hands.
Okay.
Sister or affiliated.
Yeah, affiliated organizations.
Okay. All right.
They're all nonprofit, and they all have the same mission essentially, but they specialize in some different.
So it's owned by a nonprofit?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right. I wasn't sure about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And you said that it's been broken into sections?
Yeah, it was originally it was probably 1,000 acres or so,
Yeah. Wow.
but when it was offered for sale, it was offered with the coach house and this and 217 acres. Now it's been broken down. The lots on Hilltop Road, 7 of those have been sold,
Okay.
and they're already clearing and building. There's some foundation, at least one foundation in.
Okay.
If
so
you drive up,
the
you can-
land is being sold off.
Yes,
Okay.
and those on the road are the easiest to develop. There's
Mhm.
2 more lots south of the coach house, which are maybe in some kind of agreement, will be sold soon. And then they've engineered a subdivision
Sounds about
with,
right.
I think, 24 houses.
Oh, I think I've seen some chatter about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the main house, it can be divided different ways, but essentially it's 55 or 60 acres with the developed property down to the main gate.
Okay.
And then there's some wetlands,
Okay.
which may be included in one of the other sales, and then probably, I'm guessing, whoever buys it will donate it to the town or one of the other conservation groups, because it's wetlands, can't be developed.
Right. Which
The
makes
town
sense.
forest is on that side, and the Thayer
Mhm.
Memorial Forest is on this side.
Oh.
So it will be in good hands.
Ideal location for outdoorsy people.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah.
What would you like to see happen to the house?
Well, I think because we appreciate the value of the Thayers in Lancaster and in history and what they did for the town. Abiah Thayer was the town supervisor who essentially helped build roads in the town.
Yeah.
It was a volunteer job that he did to help them build roads. They built a road from here down to Lancaster through the woods. It's still there. They called it the Dustless Road because it was when cars were coming in and people liked the cars, but they didn't because they stirred up so much dust.
Right.
So he put in crushed stone all the way
Oh,
down.
wow.
And so he knew something about roads, and he helped the town develop roads that were not unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
If you live next to a road where your house would fill full of dust. You couldn't have the windows open in the summer because the dust would just roll in all the time.
No kidding. I never thought about that issue before.
So we'd want someone who would appreciate the artwork.
It would be nice if they could bring it back, help restore it. I mean,
Yeah.
our organization has limited resources, so
Yeah.
we've kept it up as much as we could.
Mm-hmm. I imagine it probably needs that new electric plumbing, the whole deal. Or?
No,
No?
the main project is the soffits and gutters around the outside.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest project.
Mm-hmm.
And then here or there might be some small things, and things could be made more efficient, but
Yeah.
it's a very well-built building.
Mhm.
So is the coach house.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it were just left empty, it would take a very long time for it to fall down.
Wow.
The walls, you can see how thick they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the foundation is massive.
I can imagine.
I was digging down on the outside of the foundation. It's not just that the building sits on the foundation, it extends out 2 feet beyond. So the foundation is about 4 feet thick.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, I guess you do need that with such a massive.
Well, it's overbuilt,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's what you can do when you have money. You can build your house strong.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's clearly with.
There's all these sayings about building on a strong foundation, and they certainly put it to.
Oh man. Do you think it'll be a residence again, or do you think? Like, what do you think?
Well, the people looking at it, I don't know who this particular group looking today is, but they're a mixture. There's a few rare people looking at a single-family home, fairly well-to-do people. There's a fair number of nonprofits looking at it for some use for a nonprofit school or a home of some sort, or and then there is groups of people looking at it for maybe a wedding venue.
Yeah.
So those are the types of people looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach house is separated off on its own 5 acres now.
Okay.
And the people looking at that are generally two types. Either they're looking at it to convert it into a home, which is quite common around here,
Yeah.
or they're thinking of converting it back into a nice horse barn.
That could be a nice one. For
Yeah.
Sure. Very historic. Do people make offers? Like, does it ever get serious, or is it one of those things?
I think it was off the market for some time this year because there was a fairly serious offer.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we don't know the status of that right now.
Yeah.
And Dan might know better than we do, but it seems to have gone by the wayside, but who knows, it may get re-enlivened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think some of the people, when we're around, we can tell by the time they've seen it, they decide, well, and this could be for us. And they come back and do another tour, or they bring a contractor or somebody or an inspector. Sometimes they look and they just, it's too big or it's too small or whatever, just like anybody looking at a house.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own criterion for what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And what happens to you guys when it's sold?
Vacation. Happy dance.
Somewhere warm.
Well, we haven't, because we're kind of here 7 days a week, and we have responsibilities that really continue 7 days a week. We haven't taken much time off, and so we haven't seen our families in a while.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen them a little bit. Some have come here, but we're really past retirement age, frankly. Not that we would necessarily retire. We want to be active, doing something, contributing in some way, not just sitting watching TV. So, but we want to get out and move around a little bit.
Certainly, if we're happy to provide transition if a new owner.
Yeah, it's not a usual property. It's like moving into an early 1900s property that is essentially a commercial building. It's not. You can't build this big and have typical residential systems in it. And it was also renovated multiple times, you know, every group that came in made it fit their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly complex. And we have, you know, plumbers and things, electricians come in and they kind of scratch their head. What's that? What is this thing?